Monday morning, the entire middle school traveled to the Lobster Meadow landfill. We traveled to the landfill to learn and better understand where our trash goes and why it is important to recycle. At the landfill, we are met by John Appleby, the head manager of the Lobster Meadows landfill. The landfill collects about 750 tons of trash a day, and around 50% of it could be recycled. The trash is first collected by trash trucks and taken to the landfill. After it reaches the landfill, the trash is dumped into a certain spot and compacted. The landfill uses a large, heavy truck to compact the trash so they do not waste space inside of the landfill. Under the trash is a plastic liner. The liner is pressurized and collects the water and juices that are produced by the trash. The water and juices are then funneled to the water treatment plant where they are treated and put back into the river. The landfill also installs gas release pipes in the trash. As the trash decomposes, methane is released. The methane is collected and then pumped to the Bristol-Myers plant. Bristol-Myers uses the methane produced by the landfill to run the electricity inside of their plant. Many companies have to test their trash before sending it to the landfill. They test for radioactive materials and other things that could hurt the landfill. If the trash does show signs of the hazardous materials, it is sent to a radioactive waste landfill. In addition, the landfill has to test their trash twice a month and test their water once a month. The landfill is very sophisticated, impressive, and interesting to learn about. All of the middle schoolers enjoyed the trip and will value the experience. After visiting the landfill, the middle schoolers watched Landfill Harmonic. The movie is about children in Paraguay who make musical instruments out of trash. Many of the children cannot afford a real instrument, so they found ways to make them out of trash. Now, the Landfill Harmonic is nationally known and travels around the world to play for audiences. The movie inspired us to make our own instruments out of trash. 5th, 6th, and 7th graders chose an instrument and started to recreate it out of the trash. The instruments sounded very nice once they were finished, and it was a valuable learning experience for the students.
On Tuesday, we left for Head Start at 8:45 a.m. and arrived around 9. We separated into different groups and went to the rooms. We played with the children inside for a little bit and then went outside and played with them for the rest of the time. The kids who attend Head Start are from low-income families, and the program is designed to promote the school readiness of these children. Spending time with these kids isn't only fun for them, but it's also fun for us. We stayed at Head Start until 11. Trips to Head Start have been an 8th grade tradition started by Mrs. Richardson over 30 years ago. This is our 4th visit to Head Start this school year. Volunteering our time was our way to give back to the community during our Experiential Education Week.
After we ate at the riverfront of the Ohio River, our class went to WEVV broadcasting station, and we were able to tour the whole building. We were able to see the behind the scenes and see the computers and electronics that control the newscast. We also saw how staff sees what their competitors are showing. We learned that staying on schedule is a big deal, and if a video is too short, they will find some way to make it fit. But if the show is too long, they will cut less important events. For example, they had to cut a story about chickens wearing sweaters to make room for our class being in video. We also saw how they show weather with the green screen, and how there are 2 screens on each side of the set so that the weatherman or a woman can tell where they're pointing on the green screen. Also, while the person speaking is looking at the camera, they're also reading the script projected into the teleprompter. After the midday show, our class was featured on TV to end the day's show. Well, that was what we did there. So yeah, we're famous now.
After touring the WEVV broadcasting station, we traveled to the Ford Center for another tour. In the intro of our tour, we were able to meet the Thunderbolt hockey team's coach, Jeff Pyle. After introducing himself, he led us through the locker room of all the hockey players, his office, and the station where the players repaired their hockey sticks. Mark Warner, the tour guide, then showed us the room where Blake Shelton stayed before performing. We headed upstairs to check out and explore all the seats and suites used for events. We also visited the room where the lights in the entire Ford Center were controlled. After exploring all the rooms, we were able to walk on the catwalk 70 feet up in the air and visit the roof. After touring the Ford Center, we walked over to the Victory Theater, the biggest theater in the tri-state. Our tour guide informed us that all the detailed designs in the theater had all been painted by hand. We then walked downstairs to view the rooms where all the actors stayed before their performance. In the hall below the stage, performers are able to write their group name and performance title. Some of the artwork on the wall consisted of Star Wars and Charlotte's Web. Our tour guide then led us to a dungeon at the bottom floor where a haunted house used to take place. The Victory was once a nightclub where the bottom floor was reserved for individuals over 21. It has now been converted back to a center for the performing arts.
We arrived at school on a Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock and left in a 15-passenger van. Mr. Ballard drove the van 166 miles from Evansville to St. Louis, which was about a 3-hour drive.
After arriving in St. Louis, Missouri, we drove straight to Washington University to meet up with former Evansville Day School student Helen Fox and eat some lunch. Helen was kind enough to give us some information about the college campus. After lunch, we said our goodbyes to Helen and proceeded to the entrance of Wash U to meet our tour guide for a tour of the entire college. Ms. Jennifer walked us around the college campus and residential areas as she explained the importance of each area and the importance of education. She was also kind enough to explain that someone doesn't need to decide on a career or classes before college, as there are advisors to help students decide on classes and future careers. Ms. Jennifer talked about her experience at Wash U and the fun activities someone can do while on campus. While some of the college's architecture is quite modern, its main buildings featured an old Gothic style look. Ms. Jennifer told us about the campus was modeled after Princeton University. It was a memorable and educational trip for the entire 8th grade class.
After our visit at Washington University in St. Louis, we checked into our hotel, the Comfort Inn. The boys and girls stayed in 2 different rooms that had 3 queen beds, 2 bathrooms, and a pull-out couch. Before and after the Lemp Mansion, we also had time to go swimming.
On Wednesday night at about 5:50, we left our hotel to go to the Lemp Mansion. We arrived at about 6:30. Upon arrival, we met a woman who worked at the mansion named Betsy Belanger. For the first hour or so, we are introduced to the Lemp family history and the reasons why the mansion is haunted. The mansion is said to be haunted by many different members of the family and their pets. The Lemp family owned a famous brewery that was known across the city of St. Louis. With the expansion space of their brewery becoming a problem, the Lemps moved the brewery farther away from downtown. The men of the family built tunnels underneath the house as an easy access to the brewery. William Lemp Sr. was the most involved and had decided to pass on the family business to his favorite son, Frederick. However, in 1901, Frederick died of heart failure at 28. In 1904, William Sr. lost his best friend, Frederick. Despite being restless and nervous, William Sr. decided to continue to go to the office. The family brewery was finally passed down to his son, William Jr. William Sr. committed suicide on February 13, 1904. William Jr. married a woman named Lillian, and they had a child named William III. William Jr. struggled to maintain the brewery after larger companies began pressuring him with competition he had never experienced before. His sister, Elsa, committed suicide on March 20, 1920 due to troubles with her marriage. On December 29, 1922, William Jr. shot himself in his office. In 1949, William Jr.'s brother, Charles, shot his dog, Serva, then proceeded to shoot himself. Before beginning our tour, Betsy showed us 2 copper dowsing rods which are attracted to energy and used to communicate with spirits. Most of us got to try out the rods. A lot of people were able to talk to their deceased grandparents and great-grandparents. Others were able to talk to deceased aunts and uncles. The mansion was fairly spooky because of a ghost dog that spun around in the dark and ran near our legs. Orbs of light would bounce around while the ghost dog ran. This trip was really fun and encouraged us to open up our minds a bit to the world of the unknown.
On Thursday, we checked out at 8:30 after breakfast and headed off to the Holocaust Museum and the City Museum.
The day after visiting Washington University and the haunted Lemp Mansion, we went to the Holocaust Museum of St. Louis. Holocaust survivor Siegfried Adler spoke to us about his experiences in the Holocaust and how he and his family were able to escape to America during World War II. Mr. Adler gave a great presentation on his life before, during, and after the Holocaust. After that, we were given a tour of the museum by Sarah Jane Freeman, who lived in the United States during World War II, and is a volunteer at the museum. The museum was extremely detailed, and we recommend that everyone should visit it. Sarah Jane was the best tour guide. She taught us so much and told us stories that we haven't heard before. She gave us information not only about the past, but how we could use the information to make a better future. She encouraged us not to be bystanders in life. She was very inspirational, and none of us will forget our time with her at the museum. A quote by author Elie Wiesel is displayed at the museum, which says, "To listen to a witness is to become a witness." After hearing Mr. Adler and Miss Freeman share their testimony, I believe that we are all now witnesses and have a responsibility to carry the stories to others.
On Thursday morning after the Holocaust Museum, we went to the City Museum. As soon as we saw the slides and tunnels protruding to the outside of the building, we were excited. The end of our trip turned out to be the beginning of a very fun day. We walked into the massive, inviting building, but more like ran into it. After we got our wristbands, the whole class went to the second level because we were starving. We all ate at a few different tables. Let me tell you, best cookies I've ever had. After eating pizza and enjoying our desserts, we played in the tunnels and crawled forever throughout the building. At one point, we found these spinny chairs. Mrs. Meyer even got in one. There was a giant chalkboard on the third level, and Mrs. Kraft wrote Evansville Day School on it. The teachers and some of the students also got to see an acrobatic show also on the third level. Mrs. Meyer got a video where Mr. Ballard was in the electric chair. On the outside of the museum, we found even more slides and entertainment. We enjoyed climbing up multiple slides in the huge castle and also had fun playing in the ball pit. We spent more time exploring all the tunnels until our time was up and it was time to leave for Evansville.
After a busy day of action, we drove home and got back at 8:30 p.m.